Well, good evening. Welcome to Beaverdale Books. It is great to see you all here to share tonight's story. But before we begin, I want to mention some upcoming events. We have a musical event on July 9th, and that is going to feature singer-songwriter Chip Albright, who's going to launch his newest CD called 25, which, as you can imagine, is about 25 years of him in the music industry. And he will be joined by poet David Wolf, who's going to launch his book called 7. That's going to be next Wednesday, July 9th at 1:30 in the afternoon. So we hope you can mark your calendars for that. Then on July 12th, Saturday, we are celebrating 19-year anniversary. And we're going to have, isn't that wonderful? Yeah. So we are going to have free refreshments. We're going to have free advanced reader copies. We're going to have special buy one, get one offers on select hardcover books, plus a fun mix and match contest offering free sentences. Just like Jimmy John's offers free smells, we offer free sentences. And best of all, we'll be giving a 19% discount that day. So head in and take advantage of the special offer and help us celebrate. Then we have two huge ticketed events that we are so excited about. Chris Whitaker, the author of All the Colors of the Dark, right there. He is going to be here. He's going to be at Franklin Event Center on Monday, July 14th. And sportscaster Christine Brennan is going to be here with her new book about Caitlin Clark. And that is about the revolution in women's sports. Mostly due to Caitlin, I think. And that is on Tuesday, July 15th. And you can find details on our website, or you can pick up a flyer at the register, or just ask me and I can help you find where to purchase the tickets. Each one of those tickets includes a copy of the book too. So it'll be a great evening. And if you're a sports fan, I don't think you want to miss a chance, because we also are going to have Caitlin's Dowling coach and Dixon Jensen, who is the coach of the All-Iowa Attack, who Caitlin played for, and they're going to be in conversation with Christine, so it should be a really fascinating conversation. But now, let's get on to tonight's program. Anna Jinja's Adopting Grace follows Grace, a 39-year-old Korean-American adoptee, grappling with her husband's affair and the demands of raising 2 daughters, running a small business, and managing relationships within her family. The novel approaches hard topics with care and sensitivity. The Midwest feels realistic. These aren't the usual characters looking to flee to a big city, but who are learning to live as who they are and where they are. Kirkus Review calls it a delightful story of domestic life. Anna has dedicated her life to nonprofit organizations as both volunteer and employee host of the podcast, The Anna Jinja Show, and she is launching a radio show in partnership with Pacifica Network and WOUB, focusing on issues of adoption. So please help me in welcoming Anna.
First, I want to thank Anne for making this possible, because I grew up in this neighborhood. And so I was saying that there was a restaurant called the Rice Bowl that I guess is no longer in existence. But my family every year would celebrate what was called Homecoming Day. And so when an adoptee celebrates the official day of your adoption, and we would go to the Rice Bowl all the time to be able to celebrate that milestone in my life. And there's a chapter in the book that actually is based on a scene that I made up, but based in the Rice Bowl in this area. I went to Holy Trinity here, I went to Rice Elementary, and so this is my home. And so when you think about coming home, this is coming home to me. So it's such an honor to be here at Beaverdale Books, because when I think about my story and about writing this novel, it really started here in my home. And all my life, I've been searching for home. And this is really what this book was about, was trying to find my way home in many ways. So I'm just going to give a little bit of a background. So the book, I put Anna Jinja because Jinja is my middle name. It's what the whole adoption agency gave to me. They assigned a name. It was Jinja Kim. And then there's a little picture of me that looks like I'm a little criminal baby. So it's Jinja Kim, number 24852. And so my parents, my adopted parents here in Iowa, gave me the name Anna Jinja. But I would never say my middle name because what that did is it spotlighted how I was different. So people would say, "What's Jinja?" Jinja Ninja, which is kind of cool. But then I was like, I don't want to say my middle name. And it's all about being, trying to figure out who am I in Iowa. And so being an adoptee in Iowa was interesting in some ways. I was a celebrity because I would be with my family at the Rice Bowl or other restaurants. And people would ask questions like, why are you with this family? And so are you an international student, or are you a transfer student, or what was your story? And I always felt like I had to explain myself, which again emphasizes that I didn't belong and that I wasn't part of the community. And so that was really challenging for me. So I would never say my middle name. So Anna, my parents are cruel. They're not here right now. I guess this is Facebook Live. So they named me Anna, and my last name was Soderberg. So Anna Soderberg sounds very Scandinavian. So if you just see my name and roll call at Rice Elementary or Hoover, Anna Soderberg, and I would raise my hand, and people would be like, is that you? And I would have to, again, explain my whole story. So ladies and gentlemen, my sister and my mom here. Yay. So anyway, the whole time of growing up in Iowa, it was me running away from my home. And so when I got to England and was living there with my partner at the time, he told me every morning I would write from 5 to 7 in the morning. And so I am very rare. There are not very many early birds, but I am. So I would write to 5 to 7 before he got up, and we ran a business together. And so because I didn't dedicate time to what he wanted me to do, he would say to me that writing and creative endeavors was an incredible self-indulgent activity. It was a waste of time, and the only way for it to be a worthy endeavor was if it made money, but you had to be good at it, and you're not good at it, so you're not going to make money. We are no longer together. That is a fact. And so, but what that teaches you in your head when you're writing and going through that process is that you're not good enough, and that just like emphasizes that I shouldn't be doing it. It's a waste of time. I have to be Margaret Atwood. I have to be Stephen King for me to be able to own and be able to say, yes, you can write a book. Then I met Ann, and I met Ann's mom, and she said, I don't know how, we were talking about this earlier, but we had a discussion about how I had written this manuscript, and she said, well, I want to read it. I loved the editing process. So Madeline's here. She was my high school English teacher. She had a manuscript. Mom and sister had it. People had it, and I liked that process. I just didn't like the idea of it actually being published, because that means I equated that with waste of time and rejection. But Anne said, I love your book. I want to publish it. And I was like, ha, ha, ha. Yeah, sure, whatever. And then she edited, and she pulled me, because I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. And she would edit, and she rearranged the chapters to what it is today, which was great. And her publishing partner, he loved the book, and he said, so when Anne showed him the book, he said, I want to publish that.
3 chapters in.
3 chapters in, which, what an honor. In November, before it got published, I told Anne, I'm not ready for it to be published. Can you please stall for me? And Tom was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and said, no, we're not going to, because he knew this would be the last book that he published. So Anne said, I cannot tell him no. And I said, okay, we're going to move forward with it. So when someone, and all these people in the room, my parents, my sister, all believe in the book, you take all those messages and you kind of push forward. And that led to Adopting Grace. And so it really was me writing in those early morning hours of processing my adoption story, of what it meant to be someone that grew up in Iowa. What did it mean to be a Midwesterner? What did it mean? All those things that made me me. And then I mixed it up and made a character named Christina, who is terrible. She's the sister, where I just took all the elements of people being cranky and this or that, It is not my sister Simone. It is Christina. It is a fictional character. So I will just say in public, Simone is not Christina. So with all of that, this is how Adopting Grace came to be. And so I thought I would pick the chapter that my mom suggested that I read for tonight at Beaverdale Books, and it's chapter 4. I asked earlier, like, how do I do this? And Ann said, just read it. Okay, I'll do that. And actually, I just realized I need my glasses because I'm getting old. Can you edit that out? I'm very young. Okay. Too late. So, Adopting Grace, chapter 4. The adult version of me will not allow myself to cover my ears and scream, la 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 la, to drown out his latest news, so I'm forced to listen to the most recent decision. She is moving from freaking Florida to freaking Iowa with her freaking son to live with my freaking husband in his freaking 2-bedroom apartment, which is freaking supposed to be his freaking bachelor's pad, to get his freaking priorities straight and not their freaking place to freaking start a freaking life together. And I'm so freaking pissed off, I want to freaking scream. I will say that was edited. Thank you, Ann. The rage comes out as a pathetic pitter-patter whimpers. The tears are welling up, and I'm forced to look out the window to give myself a focal point to prevent a full meltdown. There's a rusty pickup truck with its hood being held up by a tall, skinny kid. An elderly man, likely her father or grandfather, appears to be fiddling with something near the vehicle's engine. I wonder if they need help, but I don't know anything about fixing cars. I don't know. I didn't want you to find out from anyone else but me, Mark says. He thinks he's being noble and kind. How can he think this is so beyond me? How he can think this is so beyond me. I know he doesn't want to be thought of as the bad guy, but why do I have to make him feel better about having an affair? Where does it say the victim should take responsibility for the perpetrator's self-esteem? And I feel guilty for my inability to grant him a pardon for ruining my life. We'll figure out how to make it work so there won't be any unnecessary pain and suffering for all of us during this transition, Mark tells me in a calm, matter-of-fact tone. I wonder who the we is. Is it Mark and me, or is it Emily and Mark? Is it all of us, including all of our children? He looks over at me while sipping mellow yellow through a straw, and I can see pity stomping out love for me. And this makes me cry, what Oprah Winfrey has identified as the ugly cry. I'm slobbering, blubbering, hiccuping, sniffling, and snobbing on my side of the booth. All eyes dart toward us to get a peek, and then quickly turn away to give us privacy. Grace, please stop, he pleads. You're embarrassing me. Please stop crying and pull yourself together. How? How did this happen, Mark? What did I do so wrong that you would do this? Oh, Grace. I'll do better, I interrupt, and swipe the underside of my nose with the crumpled tissue. Did I nag you too much about moving to a bigger house and better neighborhood, or about expanding both our businesses to earn more money for the girls' college fund? Was it just too much pressure? He slumps back in his seat as if a thug has just shot him in the chest and stolen his wallet. And I take this as a sign that he still loves me, that he has only been moving forward with Emily thinking it might be too late for us because he's embarking on the ultimate relationship deal breaker. Oh, don't be silly, he murmurs. Please don't do this, I beg. Don't do this to me, and don't do this to our girls. I've just been so unhappy for so long. His voice is barely above a whisper. Your dad dying, the funeral, everything after that, starting my business in the middle of all that craziness, everything changed. You changed. And I don't know why, but this feels like the right thing to do for all of us. We all deserve to be happy, don't you think, Grace? We can be happy if you just give me a chance. I know I've been in a terrible funk, but I promise I am. I'm working my way out of it. It's much more complicated than that. It's that damn Emily. And he doesn't respond. Why didn't you marry her in the first place? Why did you marry me if you knew all along that she was the love of your life? A vile bitterness cuts its way through the thorns, choking my questions. There was no one I could talk to about everything and nothing at the same time. You had this way of making me feel like I was a better person than I really was, and I loved you for it. Loved? It comes out this week. Love, he corrects himself. I still love you. Our girls love you. Don't throw everything away because of a couple bad years. Can you just think about it a little before you move her here and not rush into anything that can't be undone? I'll try. Promise? Promise. And I can stop crying. There are the other minor aftershocks left, slight tremors and hiccups that won't go away. We finish our meals, pay the bill, and leave the restaurant. He didn't start by giving me a physical acknowledgement of affection, nor does he leave me with a hug or even a peck on the cheek. But I see him crying in his car as he drives away, and this gives me hope. So I'll just stop there for a second. So, or I can keep reading. What would you like? It's up to me?
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm just thinking, I will say Ann edited that because I did have a really long string of F words with the freaking, and she said it was too much. And so I do appreciate that. It probably was too much. Simone, do you have a question?
When did we stop using the F word with a comma?
Wow. Well, I just want to say too, so this book has been such a journey. And so Mark is like a combination of all of my relationship failures in that. And I do remember when my marriage failed, and I remember moving to Charlotte, North Carolina. I had given him custody of Ohio, and I said, I'm going to North Carolina. And I do remember, like, there was a time where I thought he was going to come and pick me up. I'm like, oh, there's no way that he can live without me. I had done so much in that marriage to make it work that I thought, no way he's going to leave me. And I packed up my suitcase, and I had everything ready. I got my cats ready, and I calculated the time that it would take to drive from Dayton, Ohio to Charlotte, North Carolina. And then when the time passed by, I was like, well, he's just running late. He probably stopped at McDonald's to get a burger or something. And then when it got to be 2 o'clock in the morning, I realized he is not coming back. And so that realization that when you put that much into a relationship and that you hope, and I don't have children, but I imagine having children and trying to keep a relationship together like that is so heartbreaking. And so this book was really a process of the relationship failures that I've had. There's like I said, there's a chapter in there that talks about my family and about being an adoptee. One of the chapters talks about how, and this really happened, I had an adopted parent talk to me and take me out to breakfast, and she had 3 adopted children and 1 biological child. And when we were sitting at the cafe, she said to me, so I have a confession, and I think that you of all people will understand what I'm feeling. I feel a connection to my biological child like a mama bear. I will protect that child with all my heart. But my other children, I don't have the same connection to that. And I feel guilty about that. And they had some behavioral issues. It was a trans racial adoptee situation where her 3 adopted children were black. And so she didn't know how to deal with it. And so she was asking me for help, confessing that she didn't feel the same love that she had for her biological child. And for me, that was such a shock, because, I mean, first of all, I appreciated that it was truth and her truth, but I had never heard anyone in the adoption community say that. And there's a chapter in there where Grace hears this from her sister's friend about this. And I wanted to process that because I had to imagine that there were other adopted children who felt that, or adopted parents who felt that. And if you don't speak about the truth, even if it's just a version of a truth, then all of that untruth just like stays in your body, where you don't know what to do with it, and it comes out in ways where you feel you might make relationship decisions that are not so great, and you might end up with somebody who tells you that writing is a self-indulgent activity. Now, am I blaming him for this or that? Well, maybe a little bit. But also, I take responsibility for my choices too. And this book really is about taking responsibility and like embracing those choices that make us who we are. And that life isn't all about just like chasing joy and happiness. That being an adoptee, that being a human, that being a person, a writer who's trying to like sell her book and sell the story, all of those experiences make us who we are, and all that pain that comes with it is part of being human and being part of that human experience. And so I've taken this book too to be able to go out to writing groups to be able to say, for those of you who are worried about writing and thinking that I can't publish a book because people are going to read it and that it's going to be a failure, or that you're going to be compared for this or that I say that we are meant to be creative beings. And whether it's your high school teacher or your mom, who I just recently had a conversation about fear, because she's saying, why aren't you writing press releases? Why aren't you dropping this off at bookstores? Because Anne's pushing it, thank you very much. But it's because I'm afraid. And so I just have to be honest and embrace that, because all these amazing, I'm surrounded by these books. I saw The Nix, which is one of my favorite books. And Marion Clark has been here, who's a good friend thanks to Madeline, who's this incredible writer. And when you start comparing yourself to that, you think, this book does not belong in Beaverdale Books, right? And so, but I think for all of you out there who are writing, you should do it just for the sake of doing it, because it brings you joy. And that for all the yuck in the world, to spend 15 minutes every day to write your pages, or to talk to Anne, who's saying, you're going to do this edit. And I'm like, I'm not going to do this edit. And she's like, you're going to do this edit. And then to work through that and that relationship, that is meaningful. And that when you're sharing that struggle and the fear, that it helps us be able to be better human beings and who we're meant to be in this world. And I think, again, just in my humble opinion, and as the kids say, I don't know if they're saying this anymore, IMHO, I think you write, you put it out there, even if it's like in a pamphlet, and you give it to your family members and you share it and say, so what are the ideas there? Why did you write this? And to be curious and say, I wrote this because one time I was at the Rice Bowl, I hated homecoming day, didn't want to do it, threw a temper tantrum, and said, I'm not going to do this anymore. I don't want to do homecoming day. And then you fictionalize it in a way, or you might write a poem, or you might write an essay, and you share that to be able to say, this is my human experience. And so I hope that you find love, joy, hope, and inspiration to be able to say, I am creative. And there are people, even if they don't take your book and say yes, that you choose yourself. Because as an adoptee, a lot of adoptees, I host the podcast. I've had over 80 episodes of adoptees and foster youth come and tell their story. And every time they say, I'm so glad that someone chose me. And I say, I think it's time for you to choose you. For you to be able to say, I adopt you, I foster you, and say, I want to be in this world because I am here. I don't have to earn it. I don't have to get someone's validation to say, you know what, you're worthy enough to be adopted. You are worthy. You are loved. You are here no matter what. And so embrace that, love it, enjoy the journey. I've met so many amazing people on this journey. And I get a little teary because some of you are new friends, and then some of you I've met along this path. Kim, you and I did that report every flippin' month for Able Up Iowa, and I thought I was going to rip my hair out. And here I'm not working for Able Up Iowa anymore, but here we have this shared connection where you took time to walk over here to Beaverdale Books. That is the miracle of writing and books and community and creativity, is that it brings all of us together to be able to say, whatever is happening in the world, I love you, I choose you, and I choose love, and I choose that which brings us joy and peace and laughter. And so that is my message with this book. So what other questions do you have? Do you have any burning questions? Did you read the chapter about Emily? Yes.
I have a burning question. Okay. I found that fascinating that you did not enjoy homecoming day.
Well, I think it was just enough. It sort of feels performative, right? So for what it is that a lot of adoptive parents get like, how to have a well-adjusted adopted child. Celebrate homecoming day, the day of the official adoption day, and you go and do something to celebrate that milestone. So I'm going to ask Mom, so, how did you decide that you were going to do homecoming day?
Mom? We didn't do homecoming.
Yes, you did at the Rice Bowl.
Yes, occasionally, but not as a regular. Did we? Yes, in
You-
the beginning.
she-
In the beginning.
You tried to do it, and
Right.
then also when she got naturalized, we did rice bowl as well. But then she got tired of it.
Not me. I didn't get tired of it.
No, Mom didn't get tired of it. Anna got tired of it. So one of the decisions that Mom made and Dad made was that they would wait till his 4th grade to be naturalized. And so that was a really meaningful experience because in 4th grade as well, your high school social, or not your high school, I didn't skip a grade. So I was in elementary school. And so then I had to give a talk about what did it mean to be a citizen of America. And a lot of times when I worked at Hy-Vee too, and I always ended up working on 4th of July. So it's funny that I'm here. So Hy-Vee, I worked 4th of July, and they would, you get holiday pay too, kind of thing. And people would say, not Hy-Vee, shop Hy-Vee, where there's a helpful smile in every eye. Anyway, not a commercial for Hy-Vee, but I would go work on Hy-Vee, and every time someone would say to me, you must feel so lucky to be an American. And I would feel really resentful about that because, yes, but do you feel that? Why should I feel any different than anybody else about this kind of thing? And so I think it's the same sort of thing where it was where homecoming day, I just had enough of it. Or I'm just like, yep, I'm adopted. Yes, I'm different. And when you're young too, you want to be just like everybody else. So my mom was a seamstress, and so she would make these beautiful clothes, and then I would get the consignment store, with Banana Republic or Gap, and I would rip the labels off and sew them on the beautiful outfits that my mom made because I didn't want to be different. And now I'm like, Mom, can you sew me? It's like, I don't have time. That's karma. Earl, what did you want to ask?
When you were talking about other adoptees and the radio programs that you've had or the TV programs that you've had, can you speak to the issue around how do, what's the current protocol that agencies or private agencies are following in regard to adoption? I mean, is it open adoption or is it closed adoption, or what's going on in adoption?
Well, I think it depends on the agency as well and your state. So I now live in the state of Ohio, and I think it was in 2015 that they opened up the original birth certificates where adoptees did not have access to their original birth certificates. Now that was done in the spirit of privacy, for you don't know what happened with those biological family, or the mother or the dad, and so it was to protect the biological family. But adoptees felt like, I have a right to know where do I come from. And so I think it was in 2015 because I just went to an adoption network conference that talked about that. So the other interesting thing is that, I am now 52. And it is just in the last couple of years that I really wanted to talk about my adoption story. And what happened is that when I was up in Ames at KHOI doing I Am Able Iowa, which is a show that features issues around disability, and then the pandemic happened in 2020. So they said at KHOI, who are the volunteers that are not going to get COVID? Who doesn't have a life, doesn't have a spouse, only has a dog, small staff? Anna! And so I'm like, okay. So I came in, I was one of 5 volunteers who was able to engineer and be able to host shows, and I had to fill air. So, you get desperate. I'm like, I'm Anna Jinja. And so here I am. I actually didn't use Anna Jinja at that time. But anyway, it doesn't matter. I sound like my grandma. No, 1994. No, 2000. I don't know. Wait. But anyway. So what happened is that I must have mentioned that I was an adoptee. And then adoptee stories started to come to me to say, I was adopted from the whole agency. Can I tell my story? And all this time, from the time I grew up in Iowa, I would not want to talk about my adoption story. And so people were very curious about it. My name was Anna Soderberg, and so they would see my sister and be like, I say, there's my sister, and they're like, that's not your sister. I'm like, uh-huh, and she's wearing my shirt, I'm going to kick her butt, because I'm giving her a ride home, and she's wearing the shirt that I told her not to wear. That is my sister. So anyway, I didn't want to talk about it. And so it's just now with the podcast, where again I've done almost 80 episodes, that I have to ask questions about, like, so tell me about your adoption story. Tell me about why you want to find your biological family. And then I realized I've started to ask myself those questions. So it's just in the last really 4 years that I've started to really accept the fact that I'm adopted. I am Anna, I'm an adoptee, thank you very much. And so it's important because there's so many adoptees out there who have questions, and I have so many young people still who say, I want to be able to find my biological family, but I'm scared that my adopted family will feel rejected. And so for me, it's the message of there's not a scarcity of love. So if you come from a mindset that there's only this amount of love, then you're going to say, I can't share you, I can't help you find your truth. If you come from a place of, in a mindset that, a growth mindset of there's enough love for everybody, then you'll say, whatever you need, I will help you. Because as a parent, that's what I believe that the role of a parent is, to say, how can I help you be your best self? How can I find your truth? It might be painful for me, but I want you to be your best self. And so that's hard for, sometimes for adopted families to be able to accept that. Now, my parents have always said to me, you want to go to Korea? Go. If you want to find your here's a 23andMe test. And I remember when my mom gave that to me, I was so offended. I was like, why are you giving that to me? How come I'm getting it? And my sister was like, everybody in the family got one for Christmas. They're on sale. And I was so offended because I thought she was singling me out for like being an adoptee. And so I think, so some people were like, yes, and so they've been given permission. I should have had a family that said, no, I'm so sad, because I would be like, okay, yeah, that's right. But then those who, I mean, it's just opposites, right? It's like, I want curly hair, so I get a perm in the 80s. Bad mistake. So then people with straight hair with the curly hair. It's like you're never satisfied with what you have. And so I think that adopting grace, that title too, is to be able to give myself the grace and the permission to be able to say, these are the parts of who you are, even though it was fictionalized, and say, I am, this is who I am. I've had to grow into loving myself and to be able to say, you know, there's so many times where I've just hated myself, I've rejected myself. I have been so, in one of the query letters to an agent, I had wrote that Grace was a racist, that she was racist against herself. I would not wear mandarin collars because I didn't want people to think that I was Asian. I wore sunglasses from the ages of, from 8th grade to 10th grade, because there was a boy that I had to meet. And so I thought, I'll wear glasses and he won't figure out that I'm Asian. A little stupid. Yes, I did not skip grade. But all of that because I was constantly rejecting myself for what I looked like and who I was. And so how sad is that? Although there are many things that I wish I were taller. I wish that I had so many things, but I won't go there. But I think, you know, what is this journey? And at the end of my life, what I hope that when I look back is that I was able to adopt myself and say, I choose myself, and that through that, I'm better at loving others, because I can say, I understand where that hurt comes from. I understand where that rejection comes from here. Representative Wilburn is here. And I think what an act of courage to be able to be a public servant, especially these days, right? And so if he did, I have to believe that, and he's a great musician, he rides his bike, he's just an incredible, good human being. And I look at him as a role model in many ways when I was in Ames, because to have that courage to be able to say, I know who I am, I know how to stand for what I believe, even though there are so many people, I'm sure, that say, I don't believe that. But then finding ways to be able to say, you may not believe that, but you are my neighbor, you are my friend, and how do we work together to make Iowa a better place? And so those conversations are challenging and difficult, and again, you have to really be grounded in the fact that we are in this together. You know, again, when I was talking about fear with my mom just coming back home to Iowa, I said, I'm afraid to go to Iowa to pump gas in certain places in Iowa. I almost ran out of gas the other day, and I'm like, so where am I going to be safe to be able to pump gas and not worry about what somebody's going to do to me? And it's not just the comments that are directed to me. is actual physical harm that I am afraid of that will happen. If I'm afraid all the time, I wouldn't come to Beaverdale Books. I wouldn't say to Anne, can we like book this? Can we put a press release out there to be able to share this book because of fear? I wouldn't be able to say, Kim, remember that report? Oh my gosh, aren't you so glad we're not doing that report anymore? So that's another story. I'll write a book about that, Anne.
Sure.
Yeah. Yes.
I've enjoyed your presentation. It's very good.
Thank you.
We're going to buy your book. We're going to probably flip a coin who reads it first.
Thank you.
Do you have any thought of authoring a second book?
Oh my gosh, did someone set you up to ask that question?
I didn't. I promise I didn't.
So
I
it's
didn't.
so
I promise.
funny that you say that because it was such a process to write this one. And I told you it's like rooted in all my failed relationships and my fears. And so to be able to come through that. Anna's asked me for a second book. My mom has started to write an outline for the second book because people want to know what happens to Ian and Grace, which I totally understand. So I will answer that, whoever paid you to ask that question. I'm just teasing. But I think that, again, it's that act of creativity. And to be able to spend that time to be able to do that, I think, again, it just takes encouragement and great questions like that. And I was telling Jan earlier that, and Anne, that someone just texted me and said that they finished the book, when is the next one? And so I am so incredibly honored because I'm glad that people want to know what happened to Grace and to Ian and their panda. Do they have panda decor in their yard? Or did she get rid of it? What did she do with that panda that she destroyed? Who knows, kind of thing. All that to say, though, I love writing. And the way that I use a lot of my writing is to be able to write scripts for the podcast and to be able to figure out how to promote it. I think that what I guess I'll confess is here at Beaverdale Books is that my true calling really is to share other people's stories and also to encourage other people to do this, to write, and to do it when someone says to you that you can't and that you shouldn't. And my message is that you can do it, that you should do it, and no matter what, no matter how many rejection letters that you get or know how many drafts that you do, to be able to do that as an expression of love and to be able to honor your life and your talents and just to sit in those 5 minutes and do it is a way to be able to honor however you decide to honor the very best and your own faith journey and your own path in this world. That is the way to do it, I think, because it's scary and it's like Ann and I went through so many things about the cover of the book, and I told you when Tom said, I want to publish this book and I want to see it before I die, that those are the times when you have to say yes, I think. Oh, do you want me to read another?
I think you should.
I don't know the rules.
There are no rules.
There are no rules.
But
You haven't finished the chapter.
Oh, yes.
But I would like you to talk a little bit about how the story came to you. Did you the process? Did you have an outline or did it just flow?
Yes, that's a great question. It definitely didn't flow because I'm not that type. I'm not organized. I'm not a detailed person. But how I started is that I took Post-it notes. I love Post-it notes. And I had a big whiteboard and I wrote down like all the incidents that had happened to me when I was growing up. So there were certain things, and there were certain things in my marriage that I wanted to like figure out how do I fictionalize it. So I just wrote all the things that happened to me. And then I also thought about what would I want the reader to experience and to know from reading my story. And the number one thing is that I wanted other adoptees to be able to read it and say, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. And that was the thing with Able Up Iowa too, when I did the radio show. And that first one where Daniel, my co-host, said, you know, can I go off script? And I said, yes. And he said, so for me, I was diagnosed with being autistic at 6. I know my parents are listening, and I know that others are listening right now that know my story. And he said, I know now why we're doing the show. And I said, why are we doing this show, Daniel? And he said, because now I know and my parents know that I'm not alone. It was so powerful in that moment. I still get choked up about it because I don't know who listened to that show at all. But I know it made a difference for Daniel. I know it made a difference for his parents. And so that's why you do it. And so I thought, I want for that person to read the book, to be able to say and read like the chapter about that biological or the adopted parent saying, this is how I feel about my children, to be able to say, I always wondered about that and I just want to be able to talk about it. And also, I think with the radio show, it's a conversation and it's an invitation to have a conversation about things that are challenging and hard. And one of the young ladies that was a guest on the show, beautiful woman that won a rural town in Iowa. She won, I won't say it what it is, but Miss whatever it was. And her brother would say, why don't you open up your eyes when you're taking a picture? You always look like you're squinting. She was a Korean adoptee as well. And so in this episode that we recorded, the interview, she had talked about that pain of like, you know, he's kind of a kidder, but also there was pain that was connected to that. And as beautiful as she was and smart and this or that, she never saw anyone in her rural community that looked like her. And so when she moved to Hawaii, she was like, oh my gosh, there are so many people that look like me. And I think that's the connection in the conversation. And so it was a live show at the time. And she had her parents listen to the show, but they were traveling in rural Iowa. And so they couldn't get connection to be able to let her know that they had listened to her show. Freaking out because she's like, oh my God, I don't know what's happening. And so the conversation that led from that interview was to be able to open up a conversation, to be able to say, I didn't know that you felt that way. And how do we talk about it? It's not easy to talk to the people that you love the most, that you know that love you, but also they can't understand your pain because it's yours, it's your story. And so it was my thought too, is to be able to open up as an invitation to have conversations between adoptees and adoptees, adoptees and parents, adoptees and siblings who may not be adopted, to be able to say, did you read that crazy chapter, or Grace did that? Did you see it? Or there's a chapter where she attacks her brother's soon-to-be ex-wife in a paint class kind of thing, and so she throws champagne on her, smashes cupcakes in her chest, and runs away kind of thing. And so I wanted to be able to have, now I exaggerated, that didn't happen, it was what I wish could have happened to several people in my life. And it felt really satisfying to write that chapter. I'm like, yeah, dig those like cupcakes a little more. Keep going, twist, twist, twist. It was a lot of fun writing that chapter. But also I wanted it to be a conversation again about love and relationships, because if you're not an adoptee, so many people know what it feels like to have their heart broken, and to be able to desperately say, please don't leave me. Why am I not enough? You know, why can't this relationship work? And so you can be an adoptee or not and experience heartache and know that sucks. It sucks big time. And then if you read the book, you find out there's a weird relationship between the woman that he's having an affair with, and there's this weird friendship that happens, because also I think I wanted to explore female relationships. And so one of the things that I talked to my mom about is fear is like the thing that is my barrier for being my best self. And the other one is jealousy and envy. So I am always jealous of someone who can fill out a sweater really well. I'm like, I really wish I could like save up for plastic surgery, and I have $42.21, and someday I'll get it. But that jealousy of other women has often led me to not have friendships, or to be able to like close myself off because I'm just that jealous. And I'm better, I would say I'm a recovering jealousy jerk kind of thing, and I'm much better about it. But I am, and I recognize that about myself, and it's mostly with other women, not so much now, but now I can say, and I wanted to examine that. So why am I so jealous? Why do I feel so much envy? And what happens if Emily in my imagination looks like a tall Nicole Kidman, gorgeous, the ideal beauty, and Grace is not in her mind. And so what happens when your husband goes after the woman that you've put in your head as the ideal, most beautiful woman in the world? Grace can't sing. Emily can sing. She sang with
Celine Dion.
Celine Dion. And so Grace can't do that. And so I know that because I can't sing. Just ask my sister, who's very talented, and my brother, who's like good at music. I am not. And so what happens when you feel jealous, and what does that do to you, and how does that block you off from experiencing the world? Because I know that I have missed out so much in my younger years of not pursuing friendships because I just, quite frankly, was jealous. And so I hope with this too, that like as I'm looking at the Knicks and I looked at Margaret Atwood over here, jealous, 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 jealous kind of thing. I can choose to be jealous, which I do very often, and then other times I can say, I choose to read this book because what an incredible writer, and I want to be able to know what that story is so I can learn to be able to figure out to be my best self, or to figure out things and to connect, because you can't connect if you're not vulnerable. And so I want to be able to be vulnerable. So, oh my gosh, I know this is Facebook Live, so this is my confession. I confessed I'm jealous. I want to get a boob job. I'm reading books out there and not having friendships because I suck. But I think that's when you're like the best, is when you can say, help me to be a better person. Help support me, even if like I sell 5 books and 5 people read that book, just like Daniel, for that one person to hear his story and for him to not feel alone. I can go, and when I take my last breath and say, it's okay, you did your best, kind of thing. So, can I answer the question?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think we should end there. And if they want to know the rest of the chapter, they can buy a book.
Chapter 4. Oh, that's good. Dun, 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 dun. You're a pro at this, man. I get it.
Let's hear it for Anna.
Thank you so much for coming